Hey, verb reviewers. This week we're going to talk about the simple present tense for all verbs. I know we've been a little more focused the past 2 weeks on specifically to be and to have, and now I want to talk about the simple present tense in general. So we're going to go through functions or when to use the simple present tense, form or what it looks like for other verbs, and some examples. Here we go. So the simple present tense is used for descriptions, locations, careers, nationalities, all of those be things we talked about. It's also used for general truths or facts, habits and routines that we have, and actions that we repeat often, repeated actions. Let's get a little more specific and get some examples here. Again, those to be in the simple present verbs that we talked about. I am short, he is at home, they are American, we are students. Those are part of the simple present tense. So what we're really doing here is adding a few more functions to cover all the other verbs. General truths or facts. It is sunny outside. That's a fact. Water boils when it gets hot. That's a fact. My dog snores loudly. This dog snores at night so loud it wakes me up sometimes. That's a fact. Everyone likes pizza. I'm counting that as a fact. I'm sure there's one person somewhere who does not like pizza, but we're going to use this as an example. Another function or another time when we would use the simple present tense is to talk about habits and routines. These are things that we do regularly. I wake up around 8 o'clock in the morning. Every day, that's a habit that I have. My mom always goes to church on Sunday. Every Sunday, my mom goes to church. That's part of her routine or habits. They exercise at the gym on the weekend. Every weekend, that's their routine. They exercise at the gym. Finally, we use the simple present tense to talk about repeated actions. My husband makes coffee every morning. She shops at Target repeatedly. These are all sentences in the simple present tense. Take a second to notice all the different verbs we've used and see if you can find the pattern or the form before we go over it. I made it small again, but you can rewind real quick if you need to rewind and pause. Or if you're ready to go ahead, let's talk about the form. So I'm going to keep these same examples and let's just look at the verbs we have. Am, is, are. We know these, right? All those to be in the simple present. This is the simple present, so those are part of this. We're just expanding now. Boils, water boils. My dog snores. Likes, everyone likes. So our pattern here still is that the third person singular forms get an S. It is water. It's a third person singular. So we have water boils. My dog, it snores. Everyone is tricky, but it talks about everyone individually, so it is singular. So we add that S for likes. Continuing through and looking at a few more verbs in the simple present tense. Wake, goes, exercise. I want to stop here just to mention that I you, we, and they subjects have the base form with no S. So I wake up around 8. They exercise at the gym on the weekend. Third person singular gets an S. So my husband makes coffee. She shops at Target with an S. But again, I, you, we, and they are going to have that base form with no S. Hopefully that makes sense and sounds familiar. Similar rules to what we've been talking about so far. So let's go a little bit deeper. We'll talk about affirmative sentences, the negative form, and the questions. I'm putting this all on one and going over it kind of quickly because I'm hoping this is pretty familiar to you. Basically, the simple present pattern is the same one that we covered when we talked about the verb to have in the simple present. Again, to have in the simple present is part of the simple present, so you'll notice that all of the simple present verbs, except for be, that one's special, which is why we gave it its own section in this class, all of the other simple present verbs follow that same pattern. Subject, base form or base form plus S, and then your object or your complete idea. So I drink coffee, subject, base form, rest of the sentence. My son drinks juice. So my son is a third person singular subject. Our verb will change to get an S at the end, and then we'll complete the rest of the sentence. My son drinks juice. For negative sentences, we're going to bring in that auxiliary verb do or does again. And just like we practiced, the auxiliary takes the S and everything goes back to base form. I do not drink coffee. My son does not drink juice. Notice that S moved to the auxiliary form. So we have does not drink. We would never say does not drinks. Once you've got that S in your sentence, everything else goes back to base form. And to make questions, we switch that auxiliary and subject, then finish our sentence like normal. So, do I drink juice? Does my son drink juice? Notice again, do or does is what changes. That's where your S form goes. Everything else is back to base form. I hope this is all making sense so far and feels a little bit familiar to you. We'll do a quick review here so you can see everything kind of on one page, and then we'll get to practicing. So again, affirmative sentences, we've got subject, verb in the base form, or with an S for third person singular subjects, and then the rest of our sentence. I am short. For negative sentences, with be, we're just going to add not. With any other verb, we're going to add do or does not, and then our verb in the base form. So let's look at this negative sentences column for a second. I am not short. You aren't a student. Those both use be. The next three examples use different verbs and all follow the regular pattern. My dog doesn't snore every night. They don't like pizza. My students and I don't study English. We do, but you get the idea. Now remember, with negatives, you can choose to use contractions or the full form. It's up to you. So we could also say, My dog does not snore. They do not like pizza. My students and I do not study English. To make questions, we're going to switch the subject and the first part of our verb. In be questions, questions with the verb to be in the simple present, that's going to look like, am I short? Are you a student? For every other verb in the simple present tense, we're going to keep that auxiliary do or does. We can add question words at the beginning if we want to ask information or informative questions. Otherwise, we can just switch them and get a yes or a no. For example, why does my dog snore every night? Here I'm starting with a question word, why. Then I have my auxiliary, does, my subject, my dog, and then my verb in the base form, snore. As another example, do they like pizza? Here again, we've switched the subject and the auxiliary, or the first part of the verb, and kind of sandwiched our subject. Do they like pizza? And finally, we have another information question. How, and here's our sandwich, do my students and I study English? That says student English, but it's study English. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. If you're feeling overwhelmed, remember, we're just building on what we've already learned, and this is actually the same pattern that we just practiced with to have in the simple present tense. Be is the irregular verb here. Everything else follows that same pattern, okay? You've got this. We're going to practice, and if you have questions along the way, let me know. I'm happy to help. See you online.